Hey everybody, welcome to Hit Rewind. This episode we're diving into an old format that we used to do with Trash Cinema where we picked just two movies, kind of like a quick mini-sode, and I'm welcoming back someone, like we were just talking like 7, 8 years since we've been on the show, but Tony's on the other side.
Hi, it's me, it's Tony. Woo!
God, yeah, because I remember you were filling in for a long time on the cartoon show because my regular co-host always takes off the last 3 months of the year because of his job. I think that's. And then we did some trashy movies. I remember, like we did Lightning Jack. I think was one of them.
Oh yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah, and yeah, so it's good to have you back. I don't know why it took me so long. We talked about this numerous times, so it's my fault. I'm the asshole.
No, I don't think so. I just think like we're getting older and we all have our own lives sometimes, so it's hard to link up. But I'm glad to be back. It's awesome.
Yeah, so we're going through, if you listen to the show, there's a lot of movies we missed over the years. So we have a lot of 80s and 90s movies to cover, and you usually pick like the theme, or two movies that are somewhat connected. And this one we're doing like the American attempt to make Chow Yun-fat an A-lister, and didn't necessarily work in the way that we thought it would work. Like he did end up being like a well-known name, but not for these two movies.
Yeah, it's super weird. I mean, like during the mid '90s, Chow Yun-fat, me as an Asian American, like I had my eye on the prize for him because I've been watching him in Chinese movies forever, and just seeing him like back to back to back in movies like what we're gonna do is the Replacement Killers, the Corruptor. He was in Hard Boiled. He was in like 4 or 5 of the same movie as the same character in like slightly different aspects.
Yeah, and then like out of nowhere we get Anna and the King, and then they reposition him. So here's the funny thing is, they call him like the Cary Grant of Hong Kong, and I never understood it because we've only ever seen the ones where he's like the trained killer, and there's a whole other world of films that he does that just didn't really connect because they weren't like that Quentin Tarantino approved cool.
Yeah, and I mean, hell, like it wasn't until like the late to early 2000s where a lot of just American directors and filmmakers were paying attention to Chinese movies. I mean, look at The Departed by Scorsese.
Yeah.
That was originally a Chinese film called Infernal Affairs, which did gangbusters, and so the fact that they brought it over and redid it in American stylings, was kind of like that, kind of the culmination of Chow Yun-fat coming in the early '90s and people going, "Hey, what's going on over there? There's some really good things."
Yeah, and they do attempt to have some of the same vibe as the John Woo films. It helps that he produced these two movies and helped design the action sequences, so it doesn't stray too far from the formula because I think they were a little unsure if he could break through. And of the two movies, look, I know Replacement Killers is the sillier one. Like, the Corruptor is the one that's trying to, go for, like, critically acclaimed kind of film. And I gotta tell you, I have more fun with Replacement Killers.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Sorry, my dogs are barking at something.
It's okay. My dog does the same thing.
But yeah, I mean, like Replacement Killers felt much more like the standard Chinese formula. Like with the Corruptor, that felt a lot more like they were trying to get into like that really heavy American, hardboiled drama theme. Where Replacement Killers was just like this nonstop comedy, like not comedy, but nonstop Hong Kong action, which is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it's like the candy version of the Corruptor because I think also it's the difference in the directors because you have James Foley doing the Corruptor, and he's known as a very serious crime director, whereas Antoine Fuqua comes from music videos, and he has so much style and flair, and his action sequences aren't as, I would say, as intense like is that car chase sequence in Corruptor, but they're so much fucking fun.
Yeah. I feel like the Corruptor had a larger budget and it was filmed in America, where I feel like Replacement Killers, even though it was trying to feel very American Hong Kong, like American Chinatown, it felt like it was actually filmed in Hong Kong. Like the entire time, it's just like, is this Chinatown or is this Hong Kong? I'm pretty sure it's Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'm wondering, because sometimes the city movies, they can replace New York with Toronto. And I feel like that's what happened with the Corruptor. That's how they were able to do it on the same budget. They both cost $30 million. Here's the funny thing: is of all the John Woo produced movies of this time period, I think The Big Hit is my favorite because it's completely ridiculous and it knows it.
Oh, I love The Big Hit. Like that's one of my regular perennials. Like, I like to watch The Big Hit and Gross Point Blank back to back. Like they have the same fun feel for me.
Yeah, it does. And they're about assassins as well. And this one, I think the weakest point of this, and no like insult to her as a person, but I just don't buy Mira Sorvino as tough. Something I think maybe it's because not her as an actress, but because I had just seen Romy and Michelle like right before this, and it kind of set a tone in my head.
I mean, possibly. I think the biggest thing with her Replacement Killers is it felt so out of left field. Like it didn't make sense with her becoming kind of as hard as she is. Like it didn't feel like there was any groundwork for it, and so the fact that like it just kind of escalated out of nowhere just left me feeling like I'm not sure.
Well, at the time she was dating Tarantino, and she said that he convinced her that she could pull it off. That it was a good move for her to do. And I guess I forgot in the middle of all this she did Mimic, which she was very good at, and that's a serious role.
True.
Yeah, it's just I think that the one thing that kind of they dumped this in February, and action movies tend not to do well in February. And the fact that Chow Yun-fat was a very niche kind of like, we all know who he is, but do mainstream audiences know who he is? And it was kind of hard to sell him that way.
Yeah, very true. I mean, after these few films, he started getting into, like you said, Anna and the King. He was in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was literally, a Chinese import, basically. And then, what was that one with him and Sean William Scott? It was like...
Oh, yeah, Bulletproof Monk.
Bulletproof Monk. Like, that felt like, a good film. Like, Chow Yun-fat played Chow Yun-fat, like, he played his character, and you can kind of see that, throughout, and that was, them having a little more fun with him, because he does a good hardball person, but, like, he has a little bit of that crazy fun in him that, if you don't have a little bit of fun in the movie, you lose out so much on it.
Yeah, I do like the more charming, what's the God of Gamblers? Is that the one where he works at a casino?
Oh, I love God of Gamblers. Yeah, that's one of his more famous films, yeah.
Yeah, he has a series of films intermixed with all the John Woo ones that play into the charm that he had, and I wish they had tapped more into it with this one, but they really do, I think, capture some of his charm in The Corruptor.
Yes.
The bad guys in this one are like your regular killer row of like, oh, that guy. You have Patrick Kilpatrick, who people mostly know from Death Warrant. He's the Sandman. We have doggone it, Danny Trejo. We have Till Schweiger.
Oh, yeah. He was in Replacement Killers, though. I don't think he was in The Corruptor.
Wait, what? Say that again?
Danny Trejo was in Replacement Killers. He was one of the literal Replacement Killers.
Oh, no, I am talking about The Replacement Killers. Sorry, I was trying to... I keep going between the two movies, and I apologize. But, yeah, Replacement Killers is like they went out and got, like, that... I know that guy, but what's his name kind of actor.
Absolutely. Like, I was kind of surprised. Like, I forgot just how many, well-known, generic, bad guys there were. I forgot that Michael Rooker was in there. I'm like, oh, what are you doing here, man?
Yeah, and there's a stunt that's done in this movie, and I doubt it is Michael Rooker, but if he did it, holy shit. It's during the car chase out of the car wash, and Michael Rooker is running full, blast or whatever, and then hops over the hood of a car and just continues. There's no pause. It's insane.
Oh my goodness, yeah, it was so good to see these actors, kind of in their relative youth. I mean, it was early '90s, but it's crazy seeing what they're doing now versus what they were doing then.
Another thing that kind of holds this movie back is the excessive slow mo. Like he's trying, Antoine Fuqua is trying to replicate some of the John Woo feel, but I don't think he knows how to capture the slow mo because he holds on to it for too long, and in the way the movement of the camera, it doesn't work in the same way that Woo would.
Yeah, there were just some things that, as cool as they could have been, made no sense. Like, the multiple pistols and spinning around with the jacket, grabbing new pistols. I was like, it's cool looking, but it is so weird, looking down later on in the future going, that was just a really ridiculous movement as a whole.
Yeah, John Woo didn't waste any moves. Like there's the very beginning of the movie when he plants the bullet and then pulls his guns out or whatever, he does like an extra spin for no reason. I was like, well, if he's a professional killer, he's not gonna waste that.
Yeah, he's not going to do a twirly whirly. So I mean, like I watched, just for fun, I watched John Wick again recently, and just the small amounts of nuance from that compared to like this, the replacement killers, where it's like I'm just pretty sure he fired 40 bullets out of that 11, magazine, just like pistol. But okay, sure.
Yeah, there's Fuqua. He did this in Bait. And both are more about style than substance. And then when he was up for training day, I was like, oh man, this isn't going to happen. And I was like, wait a second. We found like a whole new way, like he found a whole new style where he ditched all the music video stuff that he had learned and made a straightforward action film. And it's kind of been that way ever since. He hasn't really gone back to his music video roots. Though I can't believe they pulled in their Equalizer. I mean, how old is Denzel now?
Oh my goodness! I know that they're trying to bring in some of those action heroes to come back and do roles again. But I mean, I'm looking forward to the Monk movie more than I am to the new Equalizer movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused as to how we haven't developed any new action stars. I mean, the youngest are right now like just over 40, like Gyllenhaal and all the Marvel guys. Where are the new ones? I mean, in 20 years, are we going to have any action stars?
Yeah, I mean, the last new one that came out was, Tony Jaa, the Thai guy, and he's only appeared in, like, a couple of Vin Diesel films. I haven't seen him, recently.
He was just in the new Expendables, like Iko Uwas or something like that. He was in the Raid?
I think so, yeah.
I think he's younger than 40, but yeah, it is kind of strange, like, just looking and going, okay, geriatric, oh, you digitally planted your face on a stuntman? That's how we're doing these movies now.
True, but also I think the rotation of hyperviolence was, kind of rotating out of the 90s, and we're going more into, like there was like a period of like, dramas and mystery were huge, and then like, romantic comedies got big. So I think it's just a matter of just the rotating interest again. Like I think once the world settles down and there's not so much as chaos, people will be more interested in that type of thing.
That could be, yeah. And so we mentioned the big hit, and so you have those two guys under the John Woo production banner, and they're trying to make him into a new action star as well. And so you bring them together for the Corruptor, which is a much more pensive, darker, none of that flair, none of the wild colors, still the same intense action. I think one thing they really did right, like I said, the Chow Yun-Fat was allowed to go bigger. Like he has more of that like Nicolas Cage flair with his performance in this.
Yes.
And I don't know, man. And Mark Wahlberg is at that point where he's still like the old shucks, I'm the young whippersnapper. Like I got this charm in me. I was like, I don't know if I buy that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one. Like, I liked him much more in The Big Hit than I did in The Corruptor. But I mean, like he just his role was just like newbie farm boy type of deal. And I mean, I'm glad that it didn't overshadow Chow Yun-Fat, even though it feels like he had a similar amount of screen time.
Yeah, I think that was their safety catch. Excuse me. Frog in my throat. Safety casting, because like, well, we got to appeal to American audience and younger guys, whatever, so let's get him, so it seemed like that was why they chose him. But also, like, this didn't do anywhere nearly as well as Replacement Killers, and Replacement Killers wasn't that big of a hit.
No, that one's kind of just like, it came out a year before The Corruptor, and so it felt like it was kind of a filler or like a little baby step for, like the Asian American populace to kind of be ready for like the dramatic role of Chow Yun-Fat in America.
Yeah.
It felt more of a intro to that than it was for American audience to learn about this Asian actor.
Well, it is interesting. If you look, there's a line of demarcation every decade where you change out the old guard. And it's right around 96, I feel, is when everybody said, okay, we're tired of Stallone, the big muscle guys, Van Damme, Seagal, Schwarzenegger, and they kind of moved on because we discovered Jackie Chan, and there's Jet Li and Chow Yun-Fat. So this feels like that next cycle that's ready to roll, and it would blow up over the next couple of years.
Yeah, true. And what I did like about Chow Yun Fat was like he was never in these films like a hyper martial artist. It wasn't like him doing fancy footwork, fancy handwork. It was just him shooting like a detective, him
Yeah.
just coming around the corner and blasting.
Well,
And
and
so
the acting was critical to any of his roles.
yeah, it's like it was nice seeing him in those roles again because he doesn't really do those hard role detective roles anymore. Or he didn't do them for quite a bit of time, and so like just being that happy-go-lucky, is he a crooked cop? Is he a good cop, bad cop? You don't know. Just like it's more polarized these days whenever he pops up in film.
Yeah, I love the fact that he is protective of Mark Wahlberg in this. Like he goes, I know who I am, and yes, I have been corrupted, and I've been dragged down this road, but it was of my own volition. And when they want him to drag his partner into it as well, he doesn't want that to happen. And spoilers, when he does sacrifice himself, that is such a noble, understandable moment because he feels like he's gone too far down the road that he can't be redeemed, but the kid can.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it just like I enjoyed Replacement Killers more because it was fun, but like I think for the palette of a good story, the Corruptor just had a lot more going for it. There was a lot more solid development, character development. It was a beginning, middle, end, and it wasn't just like one single day of rampant violence.
Right, and the Brian Cox character, being the gambler that he is that weakness spot. Like on the Death Star, that's Mark Wahlberg's Death Star blow up spot. Is they know they can get to him through his father, and that's such a real human moment because he refuses. As mad as he is with his dad, he refuses to let him just get killed because of his debt.
Mm-hmm.
The villains in this one, Rick Young, good lord, is he good at like this contemptible fucking like he has this shit-eating grin that he knows he has you in the his palm or whatever, and it's so frustrating, but he's good in that role.
Oh yeah, oh my goodness! Like just seeing him in that role and just like hating his guts and knowing that he's acting. It's like, oh my god, I forget sometimes that he's just not this asshole.
What else do I know him from? Because I feel like there's another role like this where I'm just like, okay, yeah, they cast him just right. Is it? What is it? Like Transporter, maybe? Is he the bad guy in Transporter?
Possibly, I don't know. Like, as an Asian person, I hate saying this, but like they cast Asian people in similar roles. So I mean, even the guy that played Benny Wong, I'm like, oh, it's Uncle Benny. He's literally Uncle Benny and everything.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering because I saw this and I was like, wait a minute, this is like 8 months earlier. He was the Uncle Benny in Lethal Weapon 4. So is this a thing that he usually gets cast as?
Yeah. Is this like a consistent universe? It's like, no, they're just lazy writers. He's Uncle Benny here, he's Uncle Benny there. Just saves on time.
That's weird. That's like the way that there's somebody else that they would do that. There was a French guy who always played like a waiter, and he always did this thing with his mouth, whatever, like this big pop mouth, whatever. And he was always a waiter, and that's always the same name that he would do. And I was like, that's weird. Is that on purpose? And I wonder if that's that way with the guy who plays Uncle Benny.
I mean, possibly, just as a kind of inside, joke in the community for whoever's casting, or just as the actor himself. I mean, maybe like he has like a nameplate and it just saves time for that.
Yeah. But yeah, you are correct on that, though, that the typecasting is exhausting.
Yeah. I mean, you said it best, generic, villains. Like you have Danny Trejo. I'm like, oh, we need a generic Mexican villain. Let's just bring Trejo in,
Yeah.
It'll work.
It is. I wish they had given them something to do besides be the killer, like some sort of character trait, some dialogue. They didn't give him anything, and I didn't think that was intimidating. Like, oh, it's like Michael Myers. We don't know who he really is. Like, no, give them something to work with, please.
Yeah, I mean, even the line that they had spoken to him was like, "Earn your money." I'm like, yeah, like literally, he's not here for anything other than just being like extra guys shooting at air.
Yeah. Of the two movies, yeah, the Corruptor is the better on paper, like the more respectable film. But the Replacement Killers is just like one of those fun Saturday afternoon, popcorn movies.
Yeah, and there's always going to be actors that have like that huge variance of like what was good versus what was fun. I mean, Van Damme's a great example. And same thing, Van Damme's is like, okay, well, some of them had good plots, but some of them were just straight Van Damme fun.
Oh yeah, because that's the last episode we did together. It was like the summer of 2016 where we did Knock Off and Double Team.
Yeah.
And god damn it, those are not good movies, but fuck, they're fun. They're so much fun.
Absolutely, like they're just the plot was nonsense, the direction was nonsense, but like just the action, the communication, the dialogue, like they're just made to be fun movies, and that's it.
Yeah. All right, so our next episode, we're going to be doing, The Last Boy Scout and Bulletproof, kind of the beginning and end of Damon Wayans for a while as a leading guy. Like 2 action bookends.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Tony, for another great episode, and thank you for coming back.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Your check will be in the mail. All right, that was cheap. Bye.
Bye.